The Nebraska Cornhuskers are 4-1, and everybody's asking the same question. Is Nebraska back? Well, I break it down from a recruiter perspective with my man Sean Callahan from Husker Online. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, it's great to be on, Dukes. Appreciate it.
All right, no
Yeah,
problem.
it's been a good start to the year so far out here.
So, what have been your impressions? What has been your impression for how the recruits feel after the Purdue game, where it started out slow, but now you kind of see that Nebraska is going to basically lean on you in the second half, and they've done it multiple times this year. What's been
Ye-
the biggest impression or takeaway that you have from the recruits?
Yeah, I mean, the Colorado game still was kind of the high water mark of the year. They had so many kids here. I think 42 recruits were here that held Nebraska offers, which was the largest number I've ever seen at a game. And that night just built up so much momentum. And the Illinois game was a tough loss, but there were no recruits at that game because it was a Friday night game. There's eight total visitors that came that weekend, and only a couple of those kids had offers. But yeah, getting back on track against Purdue. Strong defensive performance. Dylan Raiola continues to really sell Nebraska and what this is going to be the next few years with him at quarterback. So there's a lot there you can take out of the way Nebraska's played. And now they're back home this week. It's a 3:00 game against Rutgers. That's a perfect time to get recruits here because you can literally draw a 5-6 hour circle around Nebraska. And a lot of guys are able to drive in and make that game and even get home that night if they wanted to.
I saw something in the offense the other day that I thought would really be attractive to recruits. There's a jet sweep, and the wide receiver on the side of the ball where the jet sweep is going blocks two guys in one play. So you saw a speed guy getting the jet sweep, and then you got another guy taking away two guys. There was also a little bit of eye candy before then where the quarterback got involved. Talk about how versatile this offense is and why it's so attractive to recruits.
Yeah, Matt Rule has talked a lot about being a positionless football player, guys that can do a lot of things. They really talk about, I mean, he's talked about the San Francisco 49ers and what they do, and that's kind of what they want. I mean, you saw Carter Nelson, who was a 7-foot high jumper in high school, line up as a wide receiver, tight end type player, as a running back to try to jump over the pile at the goal line. You mentioned Corey Barney. They knew that Purdue, when they play man-to-man, they follow you. So when they motioned to Ja'Cory Barney last week, he was being trailed. So it was the job of Alex Bullock, a walk-on receiver out of Omaha Creighton Prep, to lay that block on two guys, and he was able to hit that block. We saw last week even a fullback, Barrett Liebentritt, who transferred from Notre Dame, but he's a local guy here. He hit a key block on the edge that helped free up a touchdown run. So that's the important part. When you do some of the things Nebraska's trying to do in the running game, the edge and the perimeter blocking is the difference between 2-3 yards and possibly a big touchdown type play.
And how important is it to get those type of runs from the perimeter game when you're kind of struggling up the gut? Like you didn't really see Dowdell have the type of game that we had been accustomed to him seeing, and you're able to still use to still base your offense based on the running game with using those perimeter runs. I want to talk about how the transfer portal has impacted Nebraska. Talk to me about a guy who's really impressed you out of the portal this year, who started somewhere else but found his footing in Nebraska.
Yeah, a lot of guys, really. Jamal Banks, Isaiah Nayor, two wide receivers they brought in from the portal. I think they have been outstanding additions as the leading receivers of this team. Dante Dowdell from Oregon, leading rusher. Just recently, the transfer portal player that's really impacted them is Sierra Wright at corner. This is a kid that started at USC, just didn't go well last year for whatever odd reason. Went in the portal. He has stepped into the starting lineup for Tommy Hill, who's a projected first rounder. Sierra Wright leads Nebraska now in pass breakups. He's had a sack that was forced to fumble against Illinois. So I do think Sierra Wright, a former top 100 recruit, is playing like that for Nebraska. And he's put himself in a position where he's given up limited receiving yards, limited yards after catch. I believe 40-some yards is all he's allowed this year. And plays that he's been targeted on. So he's been very, very good from bringing him in the transfer portal.
And recruiting starting early is so important. And now you're starting to see Nebraska lay the foundation for their 26th class, starting with Dayton Raiola, the little brother of Dylan Raiola, a quarterback out of Buford who's pretty good. When you think about the 26th class, how special can this class be for Nebraska?
Well, the one thing about when they landed Dylan Raiola a year ago, they never really got an opportunity to sell it and get recruits with him. You started to see Dylan Raiola get involved this year and helped with David Sanders, helped with Michael Terry, some of these bigger name guys, and that played an impact to get them on campus. But now you get another Raiola here, starting quarterback at Buford, Dayton, and he's just coming into his own. He took over the starting job from his brother. So unlike a lot of D1 quarterbacks, he didn't have sophomore film, at least starting sophomore film, because he backed up his brother. But Buford's had a good start to the year. He's played well. He had to win the job over another kid down there. And he committed, and it was a little bit of a surprise, just the timing of how he committed. I don't think anybody had any idea that it was just going to play out where they called randomly after a game and made the commitment. But very good prospect, a guy that has a lot of upside, big-bodied kid with a strong arm.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Michael Terry. I heard you mention him. What's the latest?
I think it's Texas and Nebraska probably are the final two. Nebraska is kind of, they've had him on campus now, I think 3 times. Texas is the perceived team to beat. Look, the NIL is the NIL. The number is the number on guys like Michael Terry. If you're in it with a guy like that late, you have to match and beat the number. So I don't think it's an NIL-driven discussion. It's more, where does he want to be? And I think Nebraska has sold them a really good opportunity. Like, look at Ja'Cory Barney on the field as a freshman. Look at all these players. We can do these exact same things with you right away as a true freshman. But Texas, I would say, still has the edge, being so close to where he's from in San Antonio. There's a geographical edge. And obviously, Texas is playing at a very high level, ranked number 1 this week in the coaches poll.
Where do you see Michael Terry playing in that offense? I mean, we just talked about him as far as being that perimeter jet sweep threat type of guy. Where else could you see him, and what about his game makes him a great fit for Nebraska and Matt Rule's offense?
They've kind of mentioned like a Debo Samuel type player where he could be a receiver, could take carries out of the backfield, could jet out, motion out, do a lot of different things. I mean, they truly see him that versatile where he can do 3 or 4 different things for you. And I think that's why he is listed as an athlete, because he can do those. I mean, some teams have said defense for Michael Terry. But Nebraska really believes they like him on the offensive side of the football.
What's been the most impressive thing about Nebraska's 4-1 start, in your opinion, that they can sell to a recruit?
I mean, the lack of turnovers has been really impressive. Just 2 on the year for Nebraska out of Raiola, and those were flukish interceptions where the receiver had the ball taken from them. They've had 1 fumble, so 3 total turnovers. On the year. Nebraska is +5 as a team in the turnover margin. So that's a really good sign in the right direction. I just think Raiola in general, though, is the biggest selling point. When you see what he does, the way he throws the ball, the way he gets it out, the way he manages the game, everybody else around him is going to get better and really benefit off him. And we've seen that already play out here. He's completing, around 70% of his passes. He's thrown 9 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions through the first 5 games of the year. So everything that you'd want to see from him, it's played out. And I think that's helped Nebraska open the door with some other recruits.
Even with this great start, every team or a start like a 4-1 team, every team still has holes. What position group do you think is most important for Nebraska to nail in this 25 class?
Well, one that's really not like generally a recruit that we talk about is long snapper. I mean, they've had huge issues at long snapper. They had 2 kicks blocked last week on field goals, and they missed another one. So kicker and long snapper has been a big issue. But outside of that, I still think pass rusher. And everybody in America is basically saying they want a pass rusher. That's the most premium position, in my opinion. So if they can go out and get more edge rush, more pass rush, I think that's a priority. Linebacker's been a priority too, I think, as they build this team back up. But yeah, the long snapper thing is something that's going to have to be addressed because we've seen it kind of crop up this year more than ever before.
As far as recruiting philosophy, would you consider this staff to be more of a 50-50 transfer portal, high school recruiting type deal where they just want to continue to build build through the portal until they feel they have the talent that they need on the roster? Or are they a team that says, you know what, we got enough now, we want all high school guys and we're going to try to pack out that class?
Yeah, they would rather go predominantly high school guys. I mean, they like to find players like Ja'Cory Barney, players under the radar like Amari Sanders, and then get them on the field. Willis McGahee, Vincent Shavers, And you can honestly, when you talk about NIL, those players are a lot less expensive, to bring in out of high school and get them in your NIL collective programs that way versus going out on the portal and buying a premium product. And as we know, that doesn't always work out. So I think they've used the portal wisely. They addressed their key needs. Like this year, it was veteran wide receiver, and they got two of those guys that they brought in. They wanted a corner late. They got Sierra Wright late. They were interested in running back if the right one came available. Dante Dowdell came available. So they've been really wise. Micah Mazuka was an O-lineman they took. I think 5 to 7 portal guys is probably a realistic number, maybe 8. But I don't think you'll ever see Nebraska take like 15 in a year. They did that Matt Rule's first year.
Right.
But to me, that number is going to be a more manageable number to go with the recruits they bring in each year.
What makes Matt Rule such a good fit for Nebraska?
His attention to detail, just his focus with the day-to-day details of the program. Nothing gets by Matt Rule. I mean, he has his hands and fingers on everything, and he knows everything going on. So I think at a place like this where there's 40, 50 media members at every setting and the fan base is rabid, you have to have that kind of guy as the head coach. He understands the importance of his job and follows things very closely with what's going on. I mean, if you weren't from here and you saw just how intense this job can be, it's unique. A state with less than 2 million people, and there's dedicated, hours upon hours of sports talk radio a day about Nebraska football on multiple stations, and the number of media members and the coverage this team gets. It's unlike really very many in college football. And so it takes a unique coach that can deal with the ups and the downs of all the other things that this job comes with. And Matt Rule's been really, really good at doing that so far.
Every year it's Texas is back. It's Texas back. Now we're starting to say it's Nebraska back. When do you feel Nebraska will truly be back? And what would that telltale sign be?
It's hard to say it's a win number, because if Nebraska can get themselves back in that 8 to 10 win range, that would go a real long way. I think 6 to 7, a lot of teams can sneak out those type of years with a break here or there, because that's the hard thing about this league. The Big Ten, there are no free wins. And in college football in general, outside of 4 or 5 teams, wins are a struggle for everybody in college football. I mean, look at Michigan against Minnesota last week. Look at Kentucky taking out Ole Miss. I think there's more of that goes on in college football than what we see when teams really roll people each and every week. And Nebraska fans were in an era where they roll people every week. Point spreads were 40, 50 points every week. And it is harder for a Nebraska fan to manage the emotions that these games can bring each and every week because of the nature of these games. I mean, they're pretty much all one-score games for Nebraska moving forward. And they lost one to Illinois, and they were able to really come back in the second half this week and take care of business at West Lafayette.
Yeah, Sean, awesome stuff. Where can everybody find you and what you do?
So we're at HuskerOnline.com. Check us out. One of the top sites on On3. Plenty to talk about. Also, I'm at Twitter or on X at Sean_Callahan. Philip, I appreciate it, man. It's great to catch up.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, man. See you soon.